Hey there. This episode originally aired on my Patreon many months ago, so some of the information might be a little bit outdated by now. If you'd like to check out episodes as soon as they come out, you can join my $3 tier over there, or you can subscribe to check out full episodes coming here eventually. Either way, the choice is yours. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pat's Creative Podcast, episode... Shoot. I should really actually think about doing the intros before I do them. It's episode something. You guys will see it in the title. But today I'm joined by a very special guest known as Bailey Ordiway. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did. One of the few that actually do.
Awesome. Bailey, would you care to introduce yourself for all the people out there?
Oh, God. The introducing yourself question is always such a difficult question because it's hard to talk about yourself without either sounding insecure about yourself or like you're just boasting about yourself.
Yeah. There's a fine line between insecurity and pretentiousness, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I have the other people do it. I don't want to be the guy who does it.
Okay, so my name is Bailey Ordiway. These days, primarily, I do YouTube, but before I was ever doing YouTube as my primary creative venture, if that's what you want to call it, I started writing books when I was 16. I got 3 published novels now, and I hit a bit of a writer's block at one point and decided to start my own movie review blog. And I did that for probably about 4 years until I just got tired of it. I didn't necessarily get tired of it, I guess. I just wasn't getting the satisfaction I was before. It wasn't enough of a challenge. I wanted to be able to do more than watch a movie and write for half an hour. So I went over to YouTube because YouTube has always been a big part of my life. And I was watching a lot of people like Jeremy Johns and Chris Stuckman and everybody on Screen Junkies. And I'm a big movie buff. So naturally, I went into movie reviews. And it was about a year ago that I switched up my content to more of like a pop culture commentary type channel.
Right. Now, to give a little bit of a background as to how I discovered your channel, it was only relatively recently, but I noticed in my podcast, I've interviewed like a lot of people who are specifically within the gaming community and whatnot, and that's just because that's where a lot of my interests lie. But I've been really trying to broaden the kind of creators I bring on in different fields. So I actually, I put out like a post on, I think the Reddit is called New YouTubers, specifically asking for movie review channels because I wanted to discover new channels that review movies. And I don't remember if you submitted or someone else submitted for you, but I discovered your channel that way. And one of the things that immediately stuck out to me about your channel as opposed to other movie review channels is that I like your style of not wasting people's time in a way. I very much am also similar when I review things. It's more like run and gun. I just kind of say what's important to me. And that's, in my head, it's like, that's why people are here to hear what's important to me. So I usually cut out the noise of like, here's a score on the plot. Here's the score on the characters. Here's a score on like all that stuff. I'd prefer to just talk about like the things that stick out to me. And I get the feeling that's kind of the way you do it too. And that's why I very much enjoy your channel. And then recently you actually made a video saying, what was the number? Was it, how many videos had you uploaded by that time for that celebration?
It was a 100 video special, and that's 100 on this channel. And the thumbnail, which was a little bit clickbaity, but honest at the same time, was had a picture of me in my very first YouTube video on a separate channel 13 years ago. And then me in my most recent video, and it said 13 years on YouTube.
Right. I mean, it's still fitting because you were talking a lot about your past anyway. So I wouldn't say that's dishonest clickbait. And the best kind of clickbait is obviously honest clickbait. And I'd say that falls in the lines. But yeah, I was very fascinated by that because I heard just how many, not just with regards to making movie reviews, but you've dabbled in so many other creative fields as well, including, like you mentioned earlier, writing books and whatnot. And I was like, this is just someone I want to have on the podcast because you have such a creative experience with other fields. And I love to just bring that up, compare the two and whatnot. So that's how I discovered this channel. And I'm very glad I did. And now that you're here, I can ask you whatever kind of questions I want. You can't go anywhere. You're stuck here now, right?
I mean, yeah, I told everybody to stay off the internet for an hour so that my internet doesn't drop. So I'll go downstairs early. They're gonna think something's up. So I'm stuck here.
It's immediately back onto the, Netflix and streaming sites as soon as you walk downstairs. So, my first question I kind of wanted to ask you, which kind of pertains to what you were talking about a little bit already, but have you always like considered yourself an artist or someone who at least likes to make things? Or would you say that was kind of developed a little bit later in your life when you started writing books and making YouTube videos and whatnot? What's your creative origin story in a way?
Well, I wouldn't say it's necessarily something that I've considered myself, but if I go back and look, I've always leaned heavily creative. I've been playing drums since I was 11 years old. And originally, drums was just an instrument that my mother got me because I had way too much energy, and she was like, "Here, go hit things for a while until it sounds nice." Um, but I just threw myself into music, and on top of that, just I remember going to libraries and bookstores, and I used to think they're the most amazing places. And even at like 6 or 7 years old, I would think I really want to have my name up there. I want to go to the O section and see Ordiway, or the B section and see Bailey. It was just an aspiration of mine. And
Interesting.
I suppose a lot of it is just the need to find a hobby, just trying to keep boredom away. I watch TV
Interesting.
for 3 hours, and I'm like, I'm just so unbelievably bored. I need something to keep my brain busy, something to keep my hands busy.
Right.
And I think the niche of YouTube I'm in, which involves about 1 hour of editing per every minute of video, keeps me very busy.
Of course, of course. Yeah, what's so funny about editing is once you first learn the software, you learn how to do things pretty quickly, but you don't fully understand in your head that just because you know how to do something doesn't make it not time consuming or not difficult, because it's
Mm-hmm.
so many little steps that just built up on top of each other that it's like it's something that's like not intimidating to get into, but intimidating to actually do. Like it's you'd expect it to not be as involved as it is. Um, but yeah, you were saying like you wanted to see your name up like in the library, right? Would you say you were fascinated with the idea of being noticed as or being credibly noticed more so than just having stories you wanted to share? Like did the story building part kind of come later?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think anybody that does creative ventures and strives to, do concerts or have books in bookstores or get subscribers on YouTube, anytime anybody says that they're not looking for a little bit of notoriety, they're lying. It may not be the main thing you're doing it for. You may be actually doing it primarily as a creative endeavor to keep yourself busy because you legitimately enjoy what you are doing. But if you just enjoyed what you're doing and you liked the outcome of the video or the book, then there's no reason to put it out there unless a part of you is hoping to be noticed, hoping to
Absolutely.
have that little bit of notoriety.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was absolutely a part of me that saw these people that I idolized and was like, not only do I want to meet them, but I want to be them.
You want to be
And
among them at the very least in the
yeah,
same
be
field.
among them, John Green is one of my all-time favorite authors. Actually, my favorite author. I've done a couple videos on the community and on him and on his books. And I'd say he was a big inspiration to me because he's actually on YouTube, one of the OGs of YouTube, if you want to call him that, because him and his brother
Sure.
started doing it back in 2007, I believe, January of '07. And
Talk
that
about
was
creative individuals. They've done everything. They're
Oh my
all over the
God, I
place.
know. That's one of the things that just amazes me about them. Which I'm like, I mean, I work full time, but on top of that, I do one video a week or one video every 2 weeks, and I do a couple hours of editing at night, and I'm exhausted. And I'm like, how do these guys have 5 different channels,
It's
4 different
admirable.
businesses? They run VidCon, they have 8 podcasts, and are both full time authors. I'm like, how do you get that done?
It's like entirely devoting your life into producing things. It's actually crazy. It feels almost like a creator's pipe dream though, because
Yeah.
we always very few times do creators only want to create one kind of thing. As time goes on, you keep getting these ideas for certain projects or certain fields you want to try out in like the realm of creation. To be
Mm-hmm.
able to actually do that, have the luxury of experimenting in other fields, so many people don't. So when you see people like John Green and whatnot who are able to do that, it's impressive. It's downright admirable. It's inspiring. It's inspiring to like maybe I'll get to a point where I'll have the kind of freedom to be able to create that way. It's
Oh yeah,
a
exactly.
creator's pipe dream, really. So you said that you were like interested in drumming for a bit. Was that your main form of music creation, or did you have other instruments you were also playing? And like, how much music would you say you were typically consuming? Would you consider yourself a big music guy?
Well, I'm actually a Wu-Tang Clan T-shirt right now. I don't know if you can see that in the shot.
I saw
Um,
it, but I feel bad because I'm so bad with band names. I don't know any of them. What is that?
they're a rap group from New York back in the 1990s that I'm a big fan of. But my wife actually got me this shirt yesterday, and I was like, "That's amazing." I'm wearing it on the podcast tomorrow because it's such a cool shirt.
Very nice.
But yeah, I've been playing drums since I was 11 years old. So I suppose actually 13 years now. And I always joke when people ask if I play any instruments. I say, no, I play drums. I don't play instruments because I've never been able to play anything but drums. I wanted to play piano, but it confuses me. I can't get the finger work down. Same with the guitar. I can't even play the bass guitar. And drums is an entirely different animal from all of that. Yeah, it takes a certain amount of skill and rhythm, and after a while you learn how to just pick up and just play with anybody to make a good beat behind whatever they're doing. Um, but I'm just hitting big round things with sticks, you know.
Yeah.
I've always been jealous of guitarists and pianists because they can play something beautiful and people will recognize the song. If I'm playing a song on drums, you're not going to recognize what the song
Right.
is. You know?
Right. It's just not quite how it works. Now,
No, but yeah.
have you ever been interested in like writing lyrics for music or vocally singing stuff? Because I mean, I because you have a fascination in writing, I didn't know if you ever felt like, and also a fascination in rap, which is a very lyrical form of
Mhm.
music. I didn't know if you've ever had a fascination of trying to craft that yourself, or is that not really something you're interested in?
It's something that I've tried in the past. I was in a band for about a year called Saving Throw, and it just kind of fell apart, not because of any creative differences, but because we were both married with two kids and full-time jobs, and just getting together once or twice a week to play music got kind of difficult on top of everything else. Um, but we I don't know if you know who 21 Pilots are,
I
but
definitely
we
know the
did a
name,
lot.
but I wouldn't be
Yeah,
able to
so
tell
they're
you
kind
what
of
the
like
music is.
alternative rock with they do a lot of rapping on top of like heavy beats and the bass guitar. I'm probably doing a horrible job describing it, but we did a lot of stuff like that. It was like rock, but with a rapper instead of a singer.
Gotcha.
And I tried my hand at writing, but our lead singer was so much better of a writer that putting all of my very amateur lyrics next to his, I suppose, just wasn't good for my self confidence as a lyricist writer.
Interesting.
Um, but it wasn't bad. I just don't think that I uh, had anything to write about. And on top of that, if you're not singing, which it's kind of difficult to do when you're playing drums, it's hard to write for somebody else. Like when he wrote
Yeah.
his lyrics, he was writing his own emotions, his own experiences, and he was the
Right.
one singing it.
That's
It'd be
very
kind of weird to
fascinating.
write my own emotions and experiences and then have someone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, it feels almost like there's a translation error because it's all thoughts and feelings that you've had, and that's where lyrics usually comes from is thoughts and feelings, and to just have someone else project that, not only does it probably feel weird for you, the writer, but also the person projecting it. It feels almost like you're playing another part, singing a different song, like doing a cover of another song, even if it was the band's
Yeah,
work. At least that's what I imagine. I say this without having any experience in the matter, but I can totally see why that would be feel off to you.
yeah, exactly. And there's just something different about like he would sing about very personal experiences to him, very difficult emotions he was dealing with. And, obviously everybody has those types of things. I have those types of things. And we were very comfortable together. I wouldn't have minded singing about those things, but uh, having him sing it instead of myself almost felt more personal and like opening up more because uh, than if even if I was doing it myself in front of him or in front of other people.
Interesting,
You know what
because
I mean?
it's almost like he's telling you your thoughts, like he read
Yeah,
your mind and is
exactly.
explaining what you feel.
And because of that, I tried a couple times writing a couple songs, but because I couldn't go too deep, I couldn't explore any deeper emotions or anything like that. It just never felt as good as what he was writing because I couldn't. I guess I just couldn't honestly write about what I wanted to write about, which is emotional things. All the best songs are about deep things. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. Now, speaking of like writing about deep things and I guess it's just written articulation in general, or even just verbal articulation, what
Hmm.
what do you think's been of all the mediums in art that you've tried, what do you think's been the one that you can feel you best articulate yourself? Like if you have a typewriter in front of you, that's really old school. If you have a typewriter in front of you, do you feel like
Yeah,
you'd
I
be
got
able
one there, and I
an old
have
school
one there.
typewriter?
I have two old school typewriters behind me. I collect them. I have about a dozen of them, and those are my two best condition ones that I
Wow.
have in my background.
Do you ever just go on them for fun, or is it kind of like thing you can't touch because they're like collectibles?
No, no. The blue one over here. I don't know if you can see it all that well. The blue one I go on every now and then, just because it just feels really nice to
I
type on
can
a
imagine.
typewriter, and I like
Yeah.
the clickety clack sound of it and the ching at the end when you push it back.
Right.
Um, then I
Okay.
have some really, really old ones that are from like 1910 that I just do
Wow.
not touch. They
Yeah,
go in
you
a,
don't want to
I
touch
polish
those.
them up, they go in a closet, and I forget they exist unless I want to show them off.
Right. Okay, I've got an impromptu question about that then. Do
Hmm.
you find their enjoyment with the idea of writing with more permanence to it? Like, do you feel like that's a legitimate feeling some people or some writers might have? Because, with electronic typewriters, obviously you keep going back and you editing things. Do you feel like there's some kind of value to having more permanent form of typing, or do you think it just doesn't matter?
Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot deeper of a thought about typewriters than I've ever had. I
Sorry.
just think they look cool and I like the sound of them.
Okay,
But
okay.
I like the deep way you think about typewriters. I'm definitely going to steal that one next time somebody asks me why I like
Yeah.
typewriters.
Yeah, that one's a freebie. The
I'm
next one
like,
will
I
cost you.
like the permanence of it, and they're just going to think I'm so smart and artistic.
Yeah, every once in a while, I just find something that is like, oh man, that sounds like a fascinating thought. I wish I had a creative thought of valuing the importance of having to use whiteout to grade things out. Anyway, but to kind of get
I'm
back onto
stealing that.
the
That's a lot smarter than my answer. That sounds better. I'm gonna
well,
that answer. I'm gonna that one.
okay, I'll let you have that one. I'll let you have that one. I'll
Okay,
take the
thank you.
next one.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but would you say that like you can better articulate yourself basically with pen and paper than you can like you do on YouTube with a microphone in front of you, or is it kind of the same level of articulation, just different forms? Like, what's your take on that with regards to articulation specifically?
See, as much as I like writing, and as much time as I've spent doing it, probably more time than I have on YouTube, just because of the fact I've written three books that are over, 40,000 words apiece, and I got hundreds of reviews on my old blog.
Sure.
Um, but I can, I think I could probably articulate myself best on YouTube in the video format because I never actually write a script like a lot of reviewers do
Sure.
or a lot of commentary channels do. I have bullet points. So I write down 10 to 20 bullet points that I want to touch on, figure out what order would make the most coherent sense in a video, and then I just start talking. And I feel like that's best because when I'm writing, I have a million ideas in my head, and my mouth is faster than my hands. So when I'm typing, I can't keep up with my thoughts, and I forget some things that I wanted to talk about, some things that I
Absolutely.
thought were important or cool. But when I'm just doing a video, I can ramble on and I can go back and forth in different topics. And then later on in post, I can make it seem like a coherent thought, if
Of
that makes
course.
sense.
And that's not
Um,
as easy to do on pen and paper to in post
yeah.
adjust everything you said. I do you get like senses of perfectionism when you're writing too? Because that's the main reason I don't do a lot of scripted stuff is because I will write like a couple of lines. They'll be fair points, but then I'll reread them over and over again and think, okay, wait, am I saying too much here? Am I saying too little? While when you put a microphone
Mhm.
in front of me, I'm able to say exactly what I need to say in no shortage of time. It's like just a completely different form almost. Like I feel like I almost the university side of me starts to kick in when it comes to writing things down because I'm used to essays and things having to be perfect and having no filler content and stuff. While when I'm just talking in front of a microphone, suddenly all those worries are gone and I feel like I can get thoughts through so much quicker, you know. What is that have you felt some similarly when writing your books?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Um, and the thing is, the difference between like script writing and just kind of a rambling rant of nonsense that, you fix and post, is that when you write something down, let's say you fill a notebook with like 4 pages, right?
Right.
Then when you write that down, it can take hours and hours of focusing on every single word, making sure that you're wording things properly, making sure that you have the right pause breaks, that you're talking about every single thing for the amount of time that you want to. And then you can read it thinking that it's going to fill up 15 minutes, and you've spent hours on end, and you got 3 minutes of video because a page a minute of reading. And that's the frustrating part, is that when you're trying to write a script or you're writing a book, um, you'll really condense all of your thoughts down, uh, and it'll sound, at least I struggle with making it sound more conversational. All of
Definitely.
my thoughts will be condensed down because, much like you, when I was in college, I took a lot of writing classes, and they didn't want you to ramble. They didn't want it to be conversational. They wanted it to be an essay.
Yeah.
So when I do write, it's much more professional sounding. It's much more essay sounding. It's much more, um, yeah, like I said, professional and not creative sounding. It sounds like I'm trying to convince somebody of something rather than having a conversation with somebody, which is not what I
Right.
like.
And inherently, when you see something written, you have a harder time understanding that it is a voice that someone is saying, and it makes it even
Mm-hmm.
harder when it's more formulaic and more like point after point after point instead of,
Yeah.
like you said, a fluid conversation. So it's like an inherently tough thing to write versus speak, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, ultimately, you still do enjoy writing, right? And do you plan on
Oh,
like
yeah,
going back to writing
absolutely.
books?
Yeah, I love writing. I love writing, and I'll absolutely write more books. I haven't um I haven't sat down to write in a book. Oh God, almost a year now. A year, no, almost 2 years. 2 years and 2 months. I haven't been able to sit down and write. But that's more personal life stuff than like I have a writer's block. I use YouTube as a creative outlet because I haven't been able to write.
For
Because
sure.
my youngest son was born in March of 19, right? So he'll be
Okay.
2 soon. And I've always written, to me, routine is very important. Actually, on my screensaver, I have a quote. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
I love
No, maybe
quotes.
not. But I have a quote on my screensaver that says, "The best writers write. They find that routine is their best friend more than inspiration is." And I've
Definitely.
always found that to be very true. To me, I would get up in the morning, I'd make my coffee, I'd sit in the same recliner that I've written every single book in, and I get my laptop on my lap, and I'd write from like 6 a.m. until 9 or 10 a.m. And I do that every day. Sometimes what I wrote was really,
Sure.
sometimes it was really great,
Yeah.
but it was the routine of it. And um, I have, now that I have a 2-year-old, I wake up when he wakes up. He wakes up at 6:15 in the morning. He's like, "Hey, Dad, time to get up. I need some
A
food."
personal alarm clock.
A personal alarm clock. Yeah. So I've yet to find a time that suits me as well as mornings do, because that's when it really feels like the inspiration juices are going in my head
Sure.
for writing, is in the early morning. I get I get home from work in the evening, and I'm just too exhausted that the strain of writing just I can't do it in the evening. So I gotta
Sure.
find time, and I will eventually when he gets older and he's no longer my 6:30 a.m. Uh, you know living alarm clock. I'll get back to writing in the mornings, but I haven't
Gotcha.
found the right balance of family and work and YouTube, which I'm really enjoying focusing on, but also
Sure.
writing, which I eventually want to get back to because that's
Yeah.
what I've been doing, since I was 16.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and one thing that's kind of nice about doing YouTube and similar content is that it's the level of like, I guess, gratification. It differs from other art fields because you can upload something and then get gratification for it on like a weekly basis. Like you upload weekly, so on a weekly basis, you kind
Yes,
of get a little bit of gratification for having something done. When you're writing a book, do you ever get almost discouraged or demotivated because you're so trapped in one art project that doesn't get done for like the longest amount of time?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. When I was trying to uh, do YouTube as well as daily or every other day content, when I was just doing the movie reviews, because now I'm, like I said, I'm doing much more like pop culture commentary with like 10 to 15 minutes, much higher, uh, a much more amount of time spent editing. But I used to do just like standard movie reviews, TV show reviews, book reviews, just quick and easy 2 to 4 minute videos. So I'd have them up every other day. But um, doing writing and doing that was very difficult.
Yeah.
And I found the videos more satisfying because, like you said, writing is difficult because you don't get the satisfaction of something being complete for like 2 years or
Yeah.
more.
And
You
you're
know?
just hoping that if the gratification's like bigger than the process and the struggles you've had writing it for that
Yeah,
long, you know?
yeah, exactly. Like you sit down every single day, or once a week if you're busy, and you write something for a year, 2 years, 5 years. Some people spend 10 years on a book, and there's no there's no big feedback. You don't put it out there. It's not done. You don't get to look at something in your hands or on a screen and be like, I made this. This was time well spent. Whereas on YouTube or like a podcast, you you have something that you can put up there that's complete and you can get input on, you know, once a day, once a week, once a
Yeah.
month, and
Or
just get
even
instant
with,
response on it.
right. And even with like the rise of live streaming, sometimes it's even just a matter of 10 seconds. You'll get some kind of feedback. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
such an,
Twitch is huge these days. Oh my God.
yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's funny because I remember back when very few people were using Twitch, but it kind of had like a bit of a renaissance of people being like, oh, this is actually really good for creators. And then as it gets bigger and bigger, now there's more and more complaints about it not being the best place to create things. But
Well, I mean, kind of a side topic from everything else,
yeah,
but
sure.
every single YouTuber, it doesn't really matter what niche they have. It doesn't matter if they are a gamer like Jacksepticeye or Markiplier, or if they do content like me, like Mr. Gigi or Amanda the Jedi. They also all play Twitch.
Yeah,
Like every single YouTuber out there also has a Twitch account that
right.
they play Twitch on. And
Yeah,
it's because why not? You're already playing games with your friend. Why not monetize that as well?
yeah,
Why not
absolutely.
play games for 6 hours and come out of it with 1,000? I
Hmm.
mean, maybe. I don't know how much they make. It's probably a lot.
And there's a lot of people who, complain about Twitch, and there's also a lot of people who complain about YouTube, and they're still chugging on YouTube and Twitch. And that's not to say you shouldn't acknowledge problems with platforms. Obviously you should make note of it, but it is fascinating just the day and age we live in where that's even viable. But I think like the fascination with Twitch specifically is that before Twitch and YouTube, so much of entertainment was done with a live audience. And I feel like when you go into YouTube, you're not used to that until you start trying out Twitch. And you realize that having a live audience, there's something special to that, right? As opposed to more of a gallery view with YouTube, where you just put something on a wall and wait for reviews and comments from people you'll never see. With Twitch, it's just more intimate. So I think a lot of creators just realized like there's some value to that, right? And I think that's why Twitch and other live streaming platforms have done so well. Even streaming on YouTube has become so much bigger. When they first had streaming on YouTube, it was the most horrendous system I'd seen. It was so complicated to work. There was about a minute delay for everything that was said. But sure enough, Twitch is on the rise, and YouTube actually tries harder with it. And now it's whether or not you stream on YouTube or Twitch, it's from what I hear, it's about the same kind of reception.
Yeah, it's a good experience.
Yeah.
That's kind of the one thing that kind of caught my interest that you were saying is the connectivity of the creator and their fans or their watchers, whatever you want to call them.
Sure.
That's kind of the main difference between like mainstream media stars, like movie stars and TV stars and all like that, to YouTubers and Twitchers.
I like Twitchers a lot. That's definitely not what it's supposed to be, but I like it a lot. So let's go
I
with
like
it.
Twitchers.
Yeah.
Or I mean, even God forbid, TikTokers. Is that
Yes.
you have that direct link? There's no middleman. I mean, how in the hell would you get in contact with Brad Pitt or Jennifer Lawrence or somebody
Right.
like that? It's not conceivable to ever get in contact with them.
Right.
But I could tweet out to Jacksepticeye, or I could tweet out to John Green, or I could get on, one of their Twitch streams, although John Green's a bad example. I don't think he has a Twitch stream.
Yet.
And I could, hypothetically, I could say something in the chat. They could look over, read it, and respond directly to me. And it's not like they have less of an audience. There's just not that middleman in between us and the person.
Of
So
course.
I think even though people like, PewDiePie have 110 million subscribers, they're arguably bigger than a lot of mainstream media actors. You feel more connected with them. You feel
Absolutely.
more a part of their community, more a part of their community than you are a fan. When you're
Right.
undoubtedly a fan of movie stars, you're not, they don't have a
Yeah.
community behind them.
Yeah, it's the strange leg up that YouTube has against a lot of traditional media is the you part of YouTube, the individual
Yeah.
aspect. And I think like a lot of that's why, I feel like genuine creators typically get the highest reception is because or not highest, but the best reception. Like people are there to see people. That's ultimately what it comes down to. The kind of content you see on Netflix, a lot of times, let's face it, in every production sense, is better than a lot of the stuff you see on YouTube, right? But the reason YouTube even has a legging is because of the individual creators there and the people who want to see genuinosity. Like you were saying with like Brad Pitt or other actors, they're essentially not people to the public eye. They're essentially not
Mhm.
even real. We don't even have concrete evidence that they exist. You know what I mean? Like how do we convince ourselves that these are actual people while with YouTube you have such direct conversations between people, or at least compared to the traditional media world, that it's a whole nother beast, and it's exciting. It's very exciting to see such a intimate relationship between creators and audiences that is unlike ever before, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're idols.
Yeah,
Like what you just said is perfect. They're not people in your eyes.
right.
They are idols. That's why you see these people at the store. Somebody walks up, sees Chris Pratt, at Walmart. They're going to lose their goddamn mind because it's like they're seeing a god, something
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
they've only ever seen in their tiny little screen. They don't see them as a person. They just see
Yeah.
them as this multi-millionaire idol.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I were to see a YouTuber in the store, it makes sense to me. They're a person. They communicate with their community. You see a lot more of their life. You don't just see them on the screen. Maybe they've done some
Right.
vlogs in the past. Maybe they do an 8-hour live stream where obviously they're going to relax. They're going to open up more. They're going to talk more like a person rather than
Yeah.
having a script that they read from or
Right.
having a fake interview on Jimmy Fallon where everything is scripted. Um, they seem more like a person because they open up more about their life. But there's
Yeah.
also a lot of bad caveats that come up with opening up about your life,
Absolutely.
what you see, which is people thinking that I'm this person's friend. So if I see them in the store, I can go up to them and give them a hug, or I can go to their
Yeah.
house because some people get sucked into that
Right.
community too much and that friendliness and closeness.
Yeah.
But it's
We
a
we've
very
talked about
one-sided
that.
relationship.
Right. We talked about it a lot on the podcast of just having a difference between personal appearances and public appearances, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because you can now connect with an audience doesn't mean that you should connect them to every aspect of your lives. And you see creators all the time nowadays who are like getting into some forms of trouble or having legit breakdowns online, all because their lives are entirely under the pressure of appearing in audience that they
Mm-hmm.
gave maybe a little bit too much food for thought, right? Um, but it's every art medium has problems like that. It's not just an online creator kind of thing, but it
Right.
certainly is a problem. But it's just a lot can be solved with just simply understanding that not everything that happens needs to be known to the public. You don't need to tweet everything you do. You don't need
Yeah.
to, yeah. But
That's kind of one thing that I have talked with my wife a lot about because we're both very big into YouTube, both of us into watching it. I'm the only one making it, um, and I've talked with her a lot about like, hey, what kind of stuff can I discuss? Can I open up about? Do you not want me to say this? Do you not want me to
right,
say that? If I'm rambling in a video about something or it's a little bit more of a personal topic, what can I say? And we've had discussions like that. And yeah, granted, I have low subscribers right now, but everybody does at some point. And so let's say tomorrow, a video I upload gets picked up, somebody likes it, they share it on Twitter, it gets on the front page of Reddit. All of a sudden, a bunch of people are, looking at my channel, um, and then I'm very careful now about like I just bought a house. I didn't post any pictures of my house on my public Instagram or on Twitter
sure,
because I've seen horror stories of people I watch that people have gone through their videos and cross-referenced picture or
Yeah.
captures of their video, gone through like real estate
Yeah.
sites, and then found out where their
Yeah.
house is.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up now because just the other day I saw a video that said it was like a house tour of. Well, I almost don't even want to say the person's house because I don't want people to look this up. It was so boggling to me, but it said house tour of X celebrity here, and it laid out like it showed like satellite pictures as to where it was, what the room layout was, and stuff like that, and it was promoting it like pridefully, like this. It was like, this is another house tour. It's like, how many times have you done this? How many times have you just entirely shown people like
Yeah.
where people I was so boggled because it was a relatively big channel, and I was like, how is this a normal thing? Like, how are you just, is no one else really concerned about this? But yeah, I mean, in your case too, like you have a family, you're not just you're not just showing information about yourself. If you accidentally show information, you're showing potential information about other people who aren't even involved with your form of creation, so it's,
Yeah.
you got to be extra cautious, I imagine.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like if it were just me, then it wouldn't be that big of a deal. I'd show off my house or whatever. If people showed up at my doorstep every now and then, bummer, that sucks. Please go away, whatever.
Yeah.
But if people show up at my doorstep and my 2-year-old son opens the door because somebody's knocking, then that's not a good thing. So yeah,
Someone rolled a 1 in that scenario. That's not a great scenario.
I tend to keep that kind of stuff a little bit more private, but it also helps that I live in a town of 3,000 people in the middle of nowhere. So the chances of me getting a million subscribers and having that happen, 1 in a million.
Already
If that
lightning in a
happens,
bottle.
the chances of somebody finding even the town that I live in is even smaller.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's easy to be, it's easy to like get lenient on it too. Every once in a while I'll find especially because I do streams every once in a while. I do a lot of podcasts. This is an hour discussion. Every once in a while I'm bound to say at least something that I probably wouldn't normally say. And when I think about it, I'm like, oh, maybe I should cut that out. And I've cut out 1 or 2 things. But it's easy to just, when you're literally being you, to just be off your guard. How do you entirely be on your guard when the whole purpose of you filming is to show you and what your thoughts are and stuff like that? So there has been like a couple situations, but ultimately, like you said, like it'd have to be 1 lightning in a bottle to get the kind of retention where people would actually care about where I live, and then a second lightning in a bottle for people to actually find it, right? So it's not something to lose sweat over, basically. It is.
Yeah, it's not like I live in LA. It's not like every other house is a celebrity. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But I do actually have a question for you, kind of going back to creation.
Question for me, that hasn't happened before.
Wanted to. What? Sorry, what did you say?
Question for me, that hasn't happened before. You got this reversed. Yeah. What's up?
Well, I've never spoken to another person before, like face to face, that makes YouTube videos. How much time goes into editing a video for you? Because it's something I've thought about a lot, because I always wonder if I spend too much time editing a video.
Sure.
So how much time do you put into editing a video?
So I've been making videos for 7 years, and what I started off doing was I saw a lot of game channels that did like top 10s, funny game reviews and stuff, and those are pretty highly produced. You got to write out a script, you have to edit, you have to put in jokes, you have to put in footage, and I jumped immediately in to try to do stuff like that, and that's the main cause of so many of my burnouts, because those videos would take like several months to actually release. And this is all while I was still in school. I was still hanging out with like friends pretty frequently. I was a kid, I had, it was hard to have me even focus in on video making. So, and that kept going for several years until there's a certain point where I realized like the ends don't really justify the means for me anymore with regards to working on such a long video and wait for it to come out like a year later. And I had like maybe 5 really good videos that I released, videos that I'm proud of at least. And those would take me sometimes a year for it to actually release, being stuck in the editing process specifically. If I were to count how much time is actually spent editing versus how much time is spent just me being demotivated to do it, it's not going to be an absolute ton, right? And now I have a part-time job in editing, so I'd like to think I have a better handle at just getting down and doing it, right? Just getting the work done. With these podcasts specifically, I the focus of it is the conversations. The focus is what I'm saying. So when it comes to other production things, these podcasts usually aren't edited for the full version, right? Like small little edits here and there, but very little editing. I usually just listen over it and see if there's anything I need to fix, and then I fix it. That's because I understand that the important of what I'm doing is what I'm saying and what the other people are saying. So as long as I keep that the focus, the quickest way I can get that information out there is what I end up doing. So I've basically changed my creative mindset towards working on things like that. I've definitely had projects that have taken so long to edit, but ultimately it's no longer become viable because it becomes a slower way to get my words out there. And I've just realized that's what I want to do. That's what I want to creatively produce. Is I want to articulate myself. I want to get my thoughts out there, and the best way to do that is the best way to do that. So I had a bit of change. This might be a long answer for your question.
No,
On
I mean,
average,
I like it. Like I said, I don't talk to a lot of other content creators, so
right?
it's nice to hear somebody else's take on it. Somebody else just kind of affirm other struggles that I've had with it and be like, yeah,
Yeah,
because I've had a lot of those too, so I get
for
it,
sure. I mean,
And
and from watching your content, like I get the feeling that what you're saying is most important to you too, and I think that's why I found your channel so appealing because it's I feel like we have similar approaches to that, and with your like one video a week, like because you have that set schedule, you have a limit to how much you can edit already, and I feel like that's healthy because you're not going to get lost in the minute details of editing.
there's something that I've this is a callback that proves that I've watched a couple of your videos. There's something
Okay,
that you've said in your videos before, which is finished is better than perfect.
it's like my favorite quote. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had to learn to live by that. So I do one a week, bare minimum. I'll do one every 2 weeks. I won't go past 2 weeks anymore to avoid burnout.
Yeah.
Um, if I try and be unrealistic and say I'm going to put two of these 15-minute videos out every single week on top of my job, on top of my family, on top of all these things, there's no way. And eventually
No
I'm going
way.
to do that. The content's going to suck. I'm going to get discouraged and I'm just not going to
Absolutely.
do it anymore. I'm going to quit.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
doing one a week or once every 2 weeks at minimum keeps me from getting burnt out. So I kind of put that in there. Even if I have the time, if I could record 3 videos in one day and edit them all out, then I'd be good for 3 weeks. I'd schedule them out one a week instead of, three in one week. And then I could just take a little bit of a break. I haven't had
Right.
that kind of luck. I'm usually always down to the margin. My last video I uploaded on Friday. I finished editing it midnight on Thursday, and I finished making the thumbnail in the morning, and then I immediately uploaded it.
Right. Do you feel like this is another thing we like to talk about a lot on here is the idea of backlogging and storing up content for later. Do you feel some more enjoyment when the content's a little bit more fresh for your sake? Like when you're working on it on a week by week basis, does it feel almost more involved because the duration of between you actually working on it and people watching it is so shortened? Is that refreshing to you? Like, what's your kind of thoughts on that?
I feel like I definitely like to not backlog. Generally, I'll record a video. So I'll upload a video on Friday or Saturday, and then I'll record a video either Saturday or Sunday, and I'll edit it during the week, and then it'll go up on Friday or Saturday. So there's one week for me to edit, and the video is up one week after I've recorded it. So it allows me to, and that's very important for me to do it in that quick turnaround of a week, which I mean, I know some people that are daily uploaders, a week turnaround is not that quick, but it's the most
Sure.
I can do. Is, let's say when The Irishman came out on Netflix, I watched it that night, and then I put a video up as soon as I could get it, as soon as I could do it. So when you're doing like pop culture and you're talking about things that are very new that just came out, it's important to get it out early.
Definitely.
But sometimes with the niche that I'm in, uh, it's not necessarily important. If I can backlog one video that is a pretty simple video. Let's say I'm just talking about Riverdale, right? A show that's on, I think, season 5 now. So there's not really any rush for me to get out a video on it immediately. I could put that video up, and then I'll have another video that's more important to me that I can spend now 2 weeks editing and have it be a more quality video. I can put more
Sure.
time into it. try and make it a little fancier and a better product to put out. So that I do have that one video there of Riverdale, so that my channel is not barren for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But then if I have that backlog, that gives me more time to work on what I think might be a more important video that I'm more passionate about.
For sure. And your type of content is interesting because it, you are dealing with things that are so with the times, a lot of the content that I make, it's very much like, I want to say timeless, but not in a good way. Like it's stale. This feels weird. It's like stale content that always exists, whether or not you watch it today or tomorrow or next year or last year. It's all stuff that's kind of still applies. And believe me, I'm not trying to say that in a good way, but it does definitely.
Sometimes that is a good thing though.
Yeah.
Because let's say I put out a video on a movie that just came out, right?
Right.
Let's say I put it out 2 days after it came out. And so that thing has to do well right then. It has to do well as soon as I release that thing in the next couple of days, because there's a million other people making videos on that one movie or that one TV show or the trailer or book or whatever it is. And then in 6 months, nobody's going to care about that movie anymore. Nobody's going to be searching for, I don't know. Nobody's going to be searching for reviews on that one movie. So it's not going to get traction anymore.
Sure.
If you're making videos on things that are timeless, then you might always get just a steady influx,
some sprinkling in always. Yeah. Well, and there are a couple of timely stuff I do. Like, for an example, one question that I will be asking you actually in a little bit is I like to ask people about the pandemic and their experience with it and whatnot. And for those I'm curious how people are going to react to those in the future, because it's very much in the now, but also it's very much a big part of history. Like, people are going to probably look back at some point on all this pandemic stuff, I imagine. Or maybe people will just not want to touch it because it's a different time. They're just thankful it's over, right? We'll see what happens.
I don't know. That's interesting how people are going to look back on it, because the last time there was a pandemic was 100 years ago in the other 20s, in the 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
People have written about it,
Yeah.
It's not like now where every single dude with a decent webcam and a microphone could start making videos because they're stuck at home for 6 months,
Right.
So there's just an infinite supply of stories that came out of this pandemic.
Yeah. Right.
People will be able to look on in the future.
That's true. We'll see what happens. We didn't have this kind of archival back in the last pandemic, and we'll see how people react to it now, But yeah, I guess that said, this is probably the best time as ever to ask you, Bailey, how have you been creatively affected by the pandemic or just 2020 as a whole? To add a little caveats, like, do you feel like you've been consuming more escapism media than usual? Do you feel like you've had more of a drive to create because that's all you really can do in these times? What's been your effect with this whole thing?
So, to put into context, oh God, how do I put it? To put it into context, 2020 was incredibly difficult for my family. We timed our move across 4 different states, 1,000 miles away from where we used to live, in June of 2019, in June of 2020, and we had that set in stone for a long time. We had no idea there was going to be a pandemic in the middle of our move, and when we got here, the house that we had originally rented wasn't available. So we actually, my wife and I and our 2 kids, lived in a motel for 3 months until we were able to buy the house that we have now. And it wasn't a bad motel. It wasn't like we were in one room with 2 queen beds. It was more like a small, like 400 square foot apartment with a couple bedrooms and a kitchenette and everything. But that was really difficult. And I mean, obviously, that got in the way of creativity. It feels dirty to say that I'm jealous of some people that were stuck at home in like their home, I guess, not a motel room, that were able to just consume media and then make videos about it or write, because all I really wanted to just try and get into that escapism you're talking about, but I was in a motel with a CRT TV and an old 2014 Dell laptop that I could not do anything on. So I
Right.
really didn't have much of an escapism. And that's why when we got this house, one of the very first things we did was we set up my office area. We renovated the entire loft of our garage and turned it into my studio or office, or whatever you want to call it, because not having any type of creative output for like 6 months was incredibly difficult for me, because I've always had that. I've had a creative output since I was 11 years old, when I started playing drums, and I
Sure.
started writing, started doing videos. And for 6 months, I didn't have any type of output. And creating stuff is my only hobby. Doing YouTube videos or writing or music are my only hobbies. So I didn't have anything. And it was just really difficult.
Yeah. Sure. Well, I mean, and I don't think it's dirty at all to
That
be.
was a long rant.
No,
But
it's fine. That's
you know,
totally fine. I don't think it's envious at all or sorry, dirty at all to be envious of such a normal lifestyle that we're used to having, like we literally did have a very normal lifestyle that was kind of stripped away from us. So I definitely wouldn't feel bad for wanting to be able to create more, be able to watch more or whatnot.
right.
That's something we're used to
we,
having. I
we
don't
were
think anyone
all
should
in
feel
a
bad for that.
pandemic, and
Yeah.
nobody wanted to be stuck at home, not being able to leave their home for
Yeah.
months and months and months.
Nobody
So
passed a
it felt
bill to have a
wrong to envy
pandemic happen.
somebody that was also experiencing the pandemic and stuck in their home. But I was experiencing it too, and I wanted to be stuck in a home, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. But it
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
felt dirty to envy somebody also going through a pandemic and a tough time.
Sure. Sure. Well, and I trust that you're in a much better spot now, right? Like you're pretty happy with everything that's set up now, and
We're easily in the best spot we have ever been in our lives. We just bought an amazing house with bedroom, enough rooms for us. Our kids get their own rooms. Huge living room. It's got an acre of land that the kids can play in. Got a phenomenal job. That's a standard, like 5-day work week, consistent schedule, which is it's impossible to find these days.
definitely.
And I do very good with routine. It helps me create creatively, and it just helps me stay sane to have a good
Yeah,
routine set like that.
absolutely.
So
I'm
we're in a
definitely the same
phenomenal
way.
place right now. And
That's
to
great.
look back where we were in June, July, August, and where we are now, it's just amazing.
Yeah. It's like the storm before the rainbow, right? It's
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Well, I'm very happy for you guys. I'm just glad you're in a much better spot now.
Thank you.
That must have been a really tough transition. I was fortunate to not have to go through something like that, but I'm very much empathetic towards your family for having to go to a motel for a bit and stuff like that. I'm glad you're out of it though. I'm glad you're creating again and very thoroughly enjoying YouTube, at least from what I understand of what we've talked about. I
Oh,
do
I love it.
have
Yeah.
we're getting a little bit close to wrapping up time, but I
Mhm.
do have one more question I wanted to go over with you. And it's something that I personally find very interesting because this could be something that has a very creative or conceptual choice behind, or it could be something that has a very simple answer. I'm not entirely sure. So this question might not go very many places. But
Okay.
your channel and a couple of other channels out there have opted to not display your subscriber count in front of your channel or whatnot. And I'm just very curious if there's like some creative reasoning behind that, or if that's your way of motivating yourself into not being concerned about numbers, or what's.
Do I not display my subscriber count?
No,
Do
no,
I
you
not
don't.
do really? I don't display my subscriber count.
Is this something you actually don't know, or is this a bit?
This is something I actually don't know. How do I do that? Wait, what?
You're
I thought it was displayed this whole time. Are you
no.
kidding?
Your YouTube has no subscribe. I was thinking it was like a creative decision. Like I don't want my content to be known by the amount of people that's following me. And I was like, wow, mad respect to
I'm
him.
not. I'm not humble. I want people to see how many people are subscribed to me. I want to. I don't mind bragging. Where do I go? How do I do
I'm
that?
actually not sure because very few creators actually do it. So I have no idea where you even select that in the settings. I don't know how you would accidentally do it either.
I just, let me rephrase. I'm
Okay,
just a really down to earth guy. And,
sure.
creatively speaking, I didn't want the numbers to get
Oh,
in the
of
way of the
course,
art.
of course. Wow, very
So,
well articulated. Very
yeah,
well articulated.
exactly.
In fact, can I
It,
steal that? That sounds like a good point. Like I want to make that later.
yeah, that can be yours. That can
Okay,
be
I'll,
your
I'll keep
answer.
that one. I'll keep that one.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Put that in your back pocket for later.
Well, hey, that's very interesting. You didn't even know it wasn't. I guess it does always technically display for you, but
No,
yeah,
and what's really interesting is I get, because of the content that I do, uh, I get a lot more views on my videos than I do have subscribers. Like you go to the little graphic in analytics where it shows how many people watch that are subscribed, how many people don't. It's like 99.2% of people that watch aren't subscribed because I got videos with thousands of views on them. Um, but it's because if you make a video on, like, okay, my most popular one is on Designated Survivor, right? The TV show. There's not a
sure,
lot of Designated Survivor videos out there. So
yeah,
when people search that, I'm the first thing that pops up on YouTube when they search Designated Survivor review.
right.
So, I mean, maybe people are looking at my name and being like, oh, who's this guy with tons of subscribers? And I'm just sitting over here like, no.
Because like I've seen other creators do it too. Like there's a small niche of creators out there who will hide it and then have some kind of reason. Some people will like get sub botted or something. They're like, it's just a false claim of what I actually represent. Some people's channels just don't perform as well as they used to, back in the day, and they feel
Mhm.
like they don't want to hold up to that kind of responsibility. Some people specifically just don't want to worry about the numbers, so they decide to hide it or whatnot. And I just thought that was fascinating to notice that your channel was doing that, because I was like, you know what, I'd love to talk to a creator as to why the decision was made. But
I'm sorry I ruined your fascination by just being a complete
oh,
accident.
I
In
don't worry.
fact, the
This was
moment that we
much
get
more
off this, I'm
fascinating.
getting on my computer and figuring out how to show it because it is something I'm proud of. It's not a lot, but every
Yeah,
single time you open up your statistics and you see that number go up one or two or three, it's a very proud moment.
yeah,
It's very fulfilling to see that you're putting all this time and effort into your
definitely,
videos and you're getting the feedback that you want.
for sure.
So is that, no matter how big or small the number, I'm proud to display it and want to display it now that I found
Yeah.
out that I'm not.
Well, and to bring this kind of full circle to what we kind of started talking about today, you were mentioning earlier how like every creator wants to have some kind of reception. It's ultimately the
Yeah.
case. One thing I've said a lot in this podcast is just that, at least my take of art is that art is communication from the artist to the audience. It's something that's being said to another person, and if you don't have anyone on that receiving end, are you really saying anything at all? Is that, could you even consider that art if you're not presenting it to another person? That's kind of the way I've been viewing it. Even if you're creating for yourself, like it's expression or whatnot, but it's hard for me to identify that as so much art if there's not another reacting factor, basically. So it's definitely okay to be interested in, like, I want people to watch my videos. I want there to be someone on the receiving end,
Yeah.
and working towards expanding your audiences or whatnot is never something I would discourage,
Oh yeah. And I
obviously.
mean, like you said, it's easier when there's someone on the receiving end of your creations to make things. Because even, when you have zero subscribers, then it's hard to talk to a camera as if you're pretending there's an audience there.
Yeah,
When you know in
interesting.
your head you're not actually talking to anybody. So
Right.
even if you have 100 subscribers or 1,000 subscribers, when you're talking, you're at least talking to some people. At
Yeah.
least some people are guaranteed going to watch this. So it's easier to talk to the camera as if there's an
Yeah.
audience there.
Right. And to anyone out there who doesn't have a YouTube channel and is thinking about making one and is worried about creating for not having an audience yet, just keep in mind, when you have the microphone in front of you, just imagine you're talking to your friends or whoever you might want to show this to. I mean, the chances are someone is probably going to be interested to see your first video or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So you can always use that as practice. Think like, oh, Jared is going to watch this, so I got to try to articulate
Oh
myself
yeah.
properly or whatnot. But also, of course, we mentioned earlier, you said like, to be a writer, you have to write or something similar, right? It's like just the process of constantly speaking into a microphone or constantly writing things down or constantly playing music, that all helps the process and makes it normalized, while talking to a camera doesn't initially feel normal, right?
Exactly. Yeah. My goal with my videos has always been to have a conversational feel to it. I want it to feel like, when you go to a movie theater and you go out on the sidewalk after you're done, or you sit in your car with your buddy and you talk about the movie that you just watched for 15, 20 minutes. I want that type of feeling in the video. I want it to feel like it's just somebody talking about something conversationally. I don't want it to be an essay. It's not a professional criticism of something. It's
Definitely.
just me some guy giving my opinion in a conversational, friendly way to somebody.
Yeah.
And
It's
no matter what, whether you were talking to no audience whatsoever when you're just getting started, like you said, it's easy to channel that feeling of just getting out of the movie
definitely.
theater, talking about something you're passionate
Yeah,
about.
for sure. And like one thing I don't get from your videos is the idea that you're trying to persuade people that this is the direct take. Like you said, it is a conversation. It's food for thought for other
Yeah.
people. There's a lot of like other reviews out there where people kind of take the approach of like, I'm going to tell you why this is amazing, as opposed to like, this is how I personally reacted to this or whatnot. And it becomes almost hostile to some extent with a lot of people online, not just in actual reviews, but in comments and discussion boards, Discord chats and stuff. Like, people get the idea in their head of these right and wrong opinions specifically about these movies. I don't get that from your videos, though. I get like genuinely, this is my take, just as I would say to you, like you said, outside of a movie theater once we're done watching a movie. And there's something great about that. There's a reason people like watching movies.
That feels great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I'm a big fan of your channel. I love the way you review things. I don't really right now have an outlet of reviewing movies or video games, but if I were, I feel like I'd be doing something very similar to the way you do it, because that's just what fascinates me is the important things that's important to you, basically.
Hey, you know what? I mean, I'd love to, if you ever did want to have some kind of outlet, I would love to have you on in more of a conversational way to talk about it. I've never done that before, but I mean, I could, if there's something that I see you tweet about that you're like, I just watched this movie, and if I just watched this movie, I might send a tweet your way, be like, hey, you want to have a 15-minute conversation about this? I'll throw it on my channel.
It would be an absolute pleasure. I'd love to do something like that. Yeah, and with your channel specifically, like, I just feel a lot of similarities the way you go about it. So I very much appreciate your content or whatnot. I look forward to your videos, and if we can work out something in the future for that, then definitely I'd love to do that. As for this podcast, though, we've unfortunately kind of hit our running out of time mark. These conversations always go by so fast. I can't be surprised at this point.
They do, yeah, they do. When you said an hour, an hour podcast, I was like, is it going to get awkward at any point? Am I going to be able to? Is there going to be a moment where it's like dead silence and we're just both thinking, man, maybe we should have made this a half-hour podcast? But no, it flew by. I didn't realize it was already an hour.
I in every invite, I still include the bit like, hey, if you guys want to do a half an hour, we can. Every time I'm crossing my fingers they don't say yes, because I know that there's going to be way too much to talk about. Like within it, like I always write down questions because I feel like it gets me prepared. Never once in this podcast did I actually look at the sheet of questions, just because I like to talk about what interests me, similar to your content, and I find that in the conversation. But there's a lot of questions basically that I didn't even get close to asking, but that's just the nature of it, and maybe we'll do this again sometime, maybe if we're both
I'd
in the
always
right
be
place.
down. Just shoot me a message. I'm here whenever.
Got it. So anyway, Bailey, would you care to kind of talk about where people can find you? Maybe something you might be working on in the future. Keep in mind the date as to when this comes out is kind of slim, but just general networking of how people can find your art and whatnot.
So I've tried to make it as easy as possible. You can go to Twitter or Instagram, or the big one's YouTube, obviously, and just search Bailey Ordiway. It's my name on absolutely everything. I'm not on Facebook. I work very, very hard to not be on Facebook, so don't bother looking there. But I tweet all the time. If you ever want to talk to me, you can tweet at me. And I'm a phone addict. It's in my pocket all the time, unfortunately, so I will see it. And on YouTube, I'm Bailey Ordiway, and the profile picture is my beautiful face, so you'll see it, except it's covered in sunglasses. So just look for a big old grin with sunglasses, and that's me.
A lot of false advertisement. I was expecting you to wear sunglasses here, and you didn't. It's kind of a shame,
I mean, I'm not Casey Neistat. I'm not that cool.
Yeah. Not quite Casey Neistat. All right,
no, not quite.
Not quite. You're almost there. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Make sure you guys tune in next time for the next podcast. For all my patrons out there listening, thank you so much for supporting. If you'd like to check out any of these topics, again, if you forgot something or just want to see something in broader detail or cut, or just from other podcasts, reminder that I upload these topics twice a week on my YouTube channel. You can always check those out there. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next podcast episode. So thank you so much. Until next time.